What would you say has been the most dramatic change in the industry in the past 5 years?
The most dramatic change, I think, is occurring through this economic cycle, where brand owners have now accepted that their responsibility to produce profit to shareholders, regardless of the economic environment, is going to be with them throughout their career. And then the reality that they have to continue to induce the American public to have them want to have their products. That only occurs if they can find efficiencies within media. They can find efficiencies with all of these platforms by simply looking at their customer and their target customer, which may not necessarily be age and sex, gender, using customer segmentation systems that they have. I think the other change that has happened in the last 5 years, and it may have happened in concert with the Beijing Olympics, where we've accepted that we live in an economic world where there's a basket of currency. 35 years ago, when I was growing up in the business, there was the dollar internationally and then everything else. I think we accept now that in our economic sense, there's the dollar, the euro, the pound, the Chinese RMB, the Russian ruble, and all the other currencies, which are important in this ecosystem. I also believe that media will accept many other currencies, that there will not be the currency, there will be a basket of currency. If you want to use an age-sex demographic, you'll use one service. If you want to use a customer segmentation system around a particular advertiser, you may use another service. And then there will be other currencies that get developed. We have identified, and we are working every day when our team wakes up around the one of customer segmentations to help our brand owners and our network customers to work more efficiently. And all of that around this mega trend that I believe that's happened in the last 5 years.
So in terms of the Great Recession, would you say this is a generational change, or is it a short-term trend?
Well, I think it's a generational change. That, like an earthquake, you have tension that builds up, and then all of a sudden that energy has to be let go, and we have an earthquake. We had this with our Great Recession, where tension was building up economically, and then it let go. In that process of letting go, we all know what happened. And what I believe will happen now in the short term and the long term, we are changing our business rules in media, and we're changing our behaviors as business people, and I believe in a very constructive way. Now, excess will happen again. It always will. It's in human nature, and we'll go through another cycle, and I believe it will develop the next set of rules or standards well into the future. But right now, we have an economic environment and media environment that's demanding putting together all of the screens, all of the platforms, and merging what the brand owner or advertiser has across these databases from all of the platforms.
And how do you think the Great Recession has impacted consumer behavior?
I think it's
long-term and short-term.
It's certainly impacted the consumer in the short term. We're not that far removed from our primitive ancestors. When we see there's an attack coming, we store up on food, and we don't do a lot. We hide. That's what we had. We weren't buying anything, and we were hiding. When we see the terrain getting more normalized, we go out and we start regaining some of our behaviors. We are consumers, not just we Americans. We human beings are consumers. It was a great revelation for me when I was doing business in Asia, specifically in China, over the last 4 years, and seeing the Chinese consumer have very similar behaviors as we in America happened after World War II in the 50s and 60s. Middle class that would work really hard to get their first, in the sense of the 50s and 60s, their first washer and their first dryer, their first television set. You're seeing a very different sense in China, their first cell phone, where cell phone consumption is growing at an exponential pace, where every quarter companies like China Mobile adds new subscribers to the extent of a small American city. or a large American city, depending on the quarter. So consumers are going to continue to consume, and Americans are coming out of their cocoon, and they're looking around, and they're buying what they want. So their habits have changed. They were stunted for a while, and they're going to regain some reversion to the mean, as my research friends would say.